I was the universally despised supporting male character in a wish-fulfillment novel. After my mission failed, all I wanted was to die. I just wanted to return to my original world as soon as possible. But when I truly lost the will to live, those who had wronged me all came back, begging me. They begged me not to die, not to leave them, but I had long since stopped wanting them. My mission to win over the novel's devoted second female lead, Chloe, had failed. I wanted to change her fate of seeking death because she couldn't win the male lead's love. But she still walked away from our engagement party for a call from the male lead. After the crowd dispersed, I went to the rooftop terrace alone. I kept confirming with the system in my head. If this body was destroyed, could I go home? After getting an affirmative answer from the system, I started moving towards the railing. I had only taken 2 steps when a sneer came from behind me. I turned around and saw another familiar face. Sarah, my non-biological sister. I had picked her up from a dumpster when she was 7, and we depended on each other until she was 14, when her wealthy parents found her and took her back. When we met again, she was already one of the male lead Ryan's ardent admirers. The bond from when I used to work 3 jobs to support her schooling was only enough to make her a little emotional at our first reunion. Later, when she found out I was, as rumored, a jealous loser envious of Ryan, she only had scorn and defensiveness left for me. Now, at my and Chloe's engagement party, the news of the male lead Ryan's kidnapping and disappearance had easily drawn everyone away, including my fiancé. Before leaving, she had even gripped my wrist, her eyes sinister, warning me, "This had better not be your doing." After saying that, she left without looking back. This was the 100th time since I transmigrated into this book that she had chosen Ryan over me. So the system judged my mission a failure. A devoted second female lead is devoted for a reason. So-called salvation was just the wishful thinking of the mission taker and the system. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but smirk, and the look in my eyes towards Sarah was no longer as friendly as before. "I don't know why you're still here, but you'd better mind your own business," I said. "Any slower, and you'll miss your chance to suck up to your hero." After all, the so-called kidnapping was always a self-staged drama by Ryan and the Johnson family behind him. The purpose was merely to ruin my and Chloe's wedding today. Once they all arrived, Ryan himself would show up. Perhaps because she had never been treated with such an attitude by me, Sarah looked startled and was about to say something. But I had already turned away, no longer looking at her. Now that the mission had failed, I had no reason to stay in this world. The only fortunate thing was that the system, having witnessed my diligence in completing the mission, had applied for a penalty waiver for me. As long as I left this world within the given time limit, I could avoid the fate of being erased. It was just that my body in the original world was also dying from a serious illness and wouldn't live much longer. Thinking of how my parents' eyes were filled with heartbreaking tenderness when they looked at me before I transmigrated, I couldn't help but grit my teeth and quicken my pace towards the railing. "Ethan, what are you doing?" As I got closer to the railing, Sarah's voice from behind me, initially disdainful, became somewhat urgent. She followed closely behind me. "What tricks are you trying to pull now? You already know that threatening suicide doesn't work on Chloe, right? Besides, you've done so many wrong things. Even if you died here today, you wouldn't be half as good as Ryan. Sarah's voice stopped abruptly because, from her perspective, I, without any hesitation, climbed over the railing and leaped towards the brightly lit city. The world before me magnified infinitely, and the whistling night wind made my ears ache. But it couldn't extinguish the joyful flame in my heart. I was going home, back to my parents and friends. I would leave all the grievances and regrets I had suffered over the years behind me. Just a little more, just a little more. I couldn't help but close my eyes. The next second, the sensation of falling was abruptly interrupted. My arm was grabbed, and the pain of pulled muscles dragged me back to this world. I opened my eyes and looked at Sarah, half her body stuck in the railing, her hands gripping me tightly. "Let go," I said to her calmly. Sarah bit her lip, her eyes reddened from the effort. She said, "Ethan, you win this time, you faked it well, but doing this won't change anything, Chloe." Let go. Not wanting to hear Chloe's name again, I couldn't help but start to struggle violently. Sarah had rushed over to grab me without thinking, and luckily, her body got stuck in the gap of the railing. But as time passed, almost half of her body was hanging in the air, her fair arms trembling from the strain. Now, as I struggled, she couldn't hold on any longer. She couldn't help but shout, "Stop struggling, we're really going to fall." Seeing that I wasn't listening to her at all, in her desperation, Sarah took a deep breath and softened her tone. She said, "I won't just watch you die. If you fall, I'll fall too. Do you really have the heart to let me die with you, Ethan, my brother?" Her tone was affectionate, almost coquettish, just like before, when she lived with me and we relied on each other. Back then, I regarded Sarah as my only family in this world. I was exceptionally indulgent with her, and she, in turn, developed a habit of acting spoiled with me. Now I looked up and met the girl's star-like eyes. She was looking at me too, and beneath her feigned calmness, there was a hint of expectation. Was she expecting my response? Thinking of this, I almost laughed out loud at my own self-deception. And I did laugh. Looking straight into her eyes, I said word by word, "Whether you die or not, who cares?" The color drained from the girl's face in an instant. As if unable to process my response, Sarah stared blankly at me. The grip on my hand began to loosen. For a moment, hope surged in my heart again. Just as her fingers were about to completely let go, suddenly, a gasp came from the side, followed by shouts for help from all around. Sarah also snapped back to reality and tightened her grip on me again. As if shaken, she looked at her hand that had almost let go, her eyes filled with complex emotions. After we were both pulled to safety, she changed her usual confrontational attitude towards me. She was uncharacteristically silent. After I tried to jump over the railing again when no one was looking, Sarah pushed through the crowd. Under everyone's gaze, she grabbed my wrist without a word. "Ryan's situation is still unresolved. As the prime suspect, I have an obligation to watch you." As she spoke, her eyes reddened uncontrollably. When she noticed I was looking at her, she turned her head away defiantly. For a moment, I saw a hint of sadness on her face. Sad about what? I couldn't help but laugh self-mockingly. Back then, Sarah, as the only daughter of the Smiths, was abducted and abandoned by her parents' business rivals. The girl wandered in a low-income neighborhood, bullied by other children, chased by vicious dogs. In the end, with nowhere to go, she hid in a dumpster at the alley entrance. It was July, midsummer, surrounded by flies and roaches. She would rather endure the pungent smell of the dumpster than take a step out of that dark alley, curled up in a small ball, waiting to rot with the rats and cockroaches. The only effort she made back then was to call out to me as I passed by the alley after school. Later, I led her out of the dumpster, cleaned her up, and altered my mother's old clothes for her. At that time, I was only 12, still unaware of my identity as a mission taker in this world. I had no special abilities. To ensure Sarah could go to school and have meat to eat, I would walk the streets picking up discarded bottles after school every day, and on weekends, I'd wash dishes in small restaurants. Child labor under 18 was illegal, so my wages were much lower than others. I had to wash 4 dishes to earn 2 cents. How many dishes would I have to wash to secure a future for myself and Sarah? I didn't know. I could only numbly pick up dish after dish, rinse and scrub, over and over. The stuffy back kitchen of the restaurant in the sweltering summer, the creaking small fan, and the ever-present thick grease became indelible memories of my childhood. I once asked Sarah, with so many people passing by that alley, why she chose me. The little girl at the time looked up at me with a big smile. She said she had observed for a long time and specifically chose me. Among so many passers-by, she only believed I was a truly kind person. This same Sarah, after being taken away at 14, never contacted me again. The one who used to say she believed I was a truly kind person, when faced with the inevitable conflicts between Ryan and me, hesitated only a few times before resolutely joining their camp, loudly condemning me, expressing her disappointment and disdain. And now, thanks to her insistence on watching me for Ryan's sake, I couldn't find an opportunity to commit suicide for the entire time on the way back. She called several bodyguards who watched me all the way, and she herself, after witnessing me unhesitatingly jump off the building twice, finally realized I wasn't seeking attention. I genuinely wanted to kill myself. Her attitude towards me suddenly improved a lot. On the way, she even patiently tried to counsel me. She said, "Although you've done many wrong things in the past, Ryan isn't a petty person. As long as you're willing to apologize to him sincerely, everyone can go back to how things were." I wasn't interested in what she said, keeping my eyes closed and resting throughout the journey. I only perked up when she mentioned Chloe. Seeing this, A hint of self-mockery tinged Sarah's smile, but I wasn't much inclined to care about her mood swings. My mind was solely focused on Chloe. Chloe, who loved Ryan so much, I figured if I provoked her using Ryan, it might not be impossible for her to kill me for his sake. Chloe was, after all, my mission target. As the Yandere-like, deeply devoted second female lead of this book, she had a good background, a powerful family, and an unhappy childhood. Ryan was the only ray of light and salvation in her youth. Even later, when she grew into a powerful female CEO who could shake things up at will and had met all sorts of people, her devotion to Ryan never changed. Later, after paving the way for the female lead and waiting for the male and female leads to have their happy ending, she chose to end her life by jumping into the sea alone. I awakened to my mission-taker identity in my sophomore year of high school after Ryan transferred to our school. At that time, Chloe had already fallen in love at first sight with Ryan, who had given her his umbrella on a rainy day, choosing to get wet himself. But her love for Ryan was subtle and deep. She could even accept another man she didn't love just to make Ryan happy. That man was me. At that time, Ryan mistakenly thought I was having an affair with the female lead, Ashley, and drowned his sorrows in alcohol every day. No matter how Chloe comforted him, it was no use. In the end, Chloe chose to pursue me, keeping me, his rival who always opposed him, under her watch. The funny thing was, at that time, I thought my persistent efforts had finally moved Chloe. I even joked with the system, saying that sincerity could indeed move a stone-cold goddess. A stone-cold heart could indeed be moved, but unfortunately not for me. When Chloe returned, Sarah was in the living room, watching me. She was watching me too closely. I couldn't do anything, so out of boredom, I started playing a game. Just then, the servants' voices welcoming Chloe home came from outside. The next second, the game console in my hand was slapped away. Chloe's exquisite features suddenly magnified before my eyes. Before I could react, she pushed me to the ground. A choking sensation came from my throat. She was strangling me with all her strength, her crimson nails digging into my flesh. I looked up and met her reddened eyes. She asked me, "Where on earth did you hide Ryan?" So they didn't find him. I couldn't help but curve my lips into a smile, thinking, as expected of the male lead, the stage is set, but he won't show up easily. He has to keep everyone in suspense. Perhaps provoked by my smile, Chloe's grip tightened, as if she really wanted to strangle me here to vent her anger. I was quite open to this. If she strangled me directly, not only would I be sent back, but Chloe, that scum woman, would also have to face legal consequences and spend the rest of her life in prison. Then, the next second, a gasp came from the side. Sarah rushed over and forcefully pushed Chloe off me. Her face was full of anger, and she helped me up, shielding me behind her. "Chloe, you almost killed him." Chloe, who had been looking at her hands in a daze, looked up at the sound. When her gaze swept over me, standing silently behind Sarah, it turned cold again. She said, "Sarah, Ethan is my fiancé. Everything between us is none of your business." With that, she bypassed Sarah and ordered me directly, "Come here." I didn't respond to Chloe's summons as I used to. Sarah, in front of me, couldn't hold back anymore, shielding me even more tightly, and yelled at her, "You know he's your fiancé. Is this how you usually treat him? Who do you think you are to treat him like this? He arranged for people to kidnap Ryan, and Ryan's life is still in danger." Chloe was finally provoked by her delicate features twisting slightly. "Sarah, remember when you first returned to the Smith family, who took the initiative to accompany you when you were struggling to adapt, brought you back into this circle, and saved you from being ostracized? Ryan was so good to you, don't be ungrateful." Sarah fell silent upon hearing this. When it came to Ryan, she always compromised easily. But at this moment, after a long silence, she suddenly spoke. "Is there any evidence?" "What?" I said. "Is there any evidence?" Sarah's voice became agitated. "From beginning to end, there's no evidence that Ethan did it. Why are all of you targeting only him?" Hearing this, I couldn't help but glance at her. So she knew, huh? That one needs evidence for everything. But when she used to accuse me on Ryan's behalf without any proof, why was she so righteous then? Hasn't he done enough wrong to Ryan? Chloe's voice was hoarse from anger. Over the years, he has framed Ryan countless times, stolen Ryan's things. These are all well-known facts. Every time it was Ryan who generously forgave him. Isn't that enough? Sarah fell silent, and I, standing behind her, couldn't help but want to laugh out loud at their argument. Of course, Ryan had to forgive me. If it weren't for me, who else could highlight his greatness and selflessness as the male lead? Just as I was losing patience and about to yawn and say something to provoke Chloe into killing me, Sarah spoke up. She said, "I believe him." What? This time it was my turn to be incredulous. "I believe Ethan. I believe he's innocent," Sarah repeated loudly. Chloe, standing opposite us, looked at us with gradually deepening eyes. "Don't you believe me?" I said from behind her, a humorless smile on my face. "You've insisted I'm a bad guy so many times. One more time won't make a difference." With that, I was about to walk past Sarah and leave, but she grabbed my wrist tightly. I turned back, but she didn't look at me. Instead, she looked straight at Chloe opposite her and asked, "Under what circumstances would a person choose to use death to prove their innocence?" "Sarah, don't be fooled by him," Chloe reminded her coldly, but Sarah ignored her and continued on her own. "All this way, I've been thinking about this question. If a person is so wronged that they're not even afraid of death, and they have to use this method to prove their innocence, then it can only be—" She paused for a moment, swallowing the bitterness in her tone, before continuing. "It can only be that before this, they experienced countless situations where everyone misunderstood them and they couldn't defend themselves, so they could only use this method to prove themselves. Chloe, just before, when you abandoned him and left, he jumped off the building in front of me. He really doesn't want to live." Beautiful. I finally understood what Sarah had been imagining all afternoon, while her eyes kept darting towards me. I'm afraid the genuine smile on my face when I jumped, born from the joy of finally being able to go home, was also interpreted by her as a bitter smile of relief from being able to escape. I saw Chloe's fair knuckles, hanging by her side, tremble slightly, and a flash of pain crossed her eyes as she looked at me. I couldn't help but want to interrupt their wild imaginings. But the next moment, Sarah grabbed me and started walking towards the entrance of the Chun family mansion. She kept talking, "They don't believe you, but this time I believe you. Ethan, come with me." "No." This time, I was the one who shook her off. Under Sarah's astonished gaze, I gave her a cold smile. "I'm telling you, Sarah, don't pretend to be a good person either. I don't believe you at all right now." After all, seeing her like this, I knew I wouldn't find a chance to go home if I stayed by her side. It was better to provoke Chloe, who was currently in a state of rage. With proper manipulation, I might just achieve the perfect ending where I go home and she goes to jail. Being rejected by me repeatedly, I thought Sarah would be angry, would, as before, be unable to resist being sarcastic towards me. But none of that happened. The girl just looked at me quietly, mist gradually welling up in her eyes. "I won't let anything happen to you." Finally, she left me with these words and turned away. I looked back at the silent Chloe. "You two seem to have a good relationship." Her expression was still cold, but the acidity in her eyes seemed unnoticed even by herself. "It's all right, after all, I raised her." This was the first time I had revealed my relationship with Sarah. Her disgraceful past of being lost in the low-income neighborhood had always been well covered up by the Smith family. No one knew how she had survived, or with whom she had spent that time. The next second, the world before my eyes spun. I was suddenly pushed onto the sofa by Chloe, her palm once again lingering on my neck. Unlike the previous roughness, this time her grip was light, even somewhat ambiguous. I kept my eyes open, silently confronting her. After a long while, she seemed to have compromised, sighing softly and releasing her hand. Her thumb slowly caressed the bruise on my neck she had caused earlier. She gently rested her head on my chest and said, "Let's not fight anymore. Tell me Ryan's current address, okay?" For a moment, I truly saw a kind of deep affection in her eyes. It seemed that not long ago, when she held a wedding ring and asked if I wanted to marry her, her eyes had also held such affection. At that time, she said, "No matter what happened in the past, as long as you behave well in the future and don't make mistakes, we will be happy together." But by then, I already understood that her pursuit of me was merely for Ryan's happiness, and my heart had long since died for her. Yet, for the sake of the mission, I suppressed my feeling of humiliation and accepted the engagement ring she offered me for another man. The moment the ring was on my finger, Chloe smiled with relief. She even kissed me quite affectionately amidst the crowd's cheers, although the next moment, she was called away by the news of Ryan's car accident. And now, looking at her face again, I slowly smiled. Chloe's eyes lit up, and a certain hope rose in her voice. She said, "Ethan, just be a little more obedient, okay? I can let this matter go. In the future, as long as you don't hurt Ryan anymore, we can be happy together forever. In your dreams." The next moment, her words were cut off by my voice. "There's no such good thing, Chloe. Do you think you're running a harem wanting me and him to live in harmony? If you have the guts, just kill me. Don't think I don't dare." Her voice turned cold. "Come on. If you can't take my life, you're a coward." I blurted out the harsh words, but soon, I blacked out from exhaustion and fainted completely. During the time I was unconscious, the system reminded me to speed up my departure from this world, as my time was running out. When I was about to wake up, my head was groggy. A warm palm kept caressing my face, occasionally accompanied by a warm, breathy kiss. I thought this must be my hallucination. I had pursued Chloe for 7 years, staying by her side as her boyfriend for 5. The number of times she had actively kissed me was pitifully small, countable on one hand. But this hallucination felt increasingly real. I could even hear her voice, tinged with helplessness, by my ear, saying, "Ethan, what am I going to do with you?" I couldn't bear it any longer. The moment I opened my eyes, I met Chloe's gaze, the emotions in them not yet concealed. For a moment, I was somewhat stunned. In front of me, Chloe had always been calm and restrained. I rarely saw her with such a look: pity, disgust, suppression, reluctance. Many emotions intertwined, making her seem so unfamiliar. But this unfamiliarity only lasted for a couple of seconds. Soon, her expression became firm again. "Tell me, where is Ryan?" Her voice was low, as if trying to bewitch me, but in her hand, she was casually playing with a syringe. Seeing my gaze fall on it, she thoughtfully introduced, "This is something that only circulates in high society. 1 milliliter is worth tens of millions because it can make a person die in agony within 3 minutes, and the forensic examination will only show a heart attack." Hearing this, I smiled. Chloe thought I had finally come around, and a look of relief had just begun to appear in her eyes when it quickly turned to shock, because I grabbed her hand holding the syringe and, under her gaze, plunged the needle into my own neck. "Chloe, let me tell you a secret." On the verge of death, I looked at Chloe's astonished and helpless eyes. I said, "Before, I was good to you because I loved you." I know. She embraced me, trembling, and turned her head to shout for someone to call a doctor. So I leaned against her shoulder and finished my sentence. I said, "I loved you, but you never once believed me. So let's just forget it, Chloe. Now, just living in the same world as you makes me sick." With that, I pushed her away and fell from her embrace. I fell from her arms. The process of falling to the ground seemed to slow down. I could clearly see the confusion and sorrow on her face. Would Chloe feel sad for me too? Never mind, I thought, I'm finally going home. Ethan. In a daze, I heard the basement door being kicked open, and a familiar voice came through. It was Ashley, the girl next door who had always taken good care of me, and also the female lead of this book. I heard her hurried footsteps, and her urgent, almost broken voice announcement, "Ryan has been found." It was done by the Johnson family's rivals. "What did you say?" Chloe's trembling voice came. I could no longer hear the subsequent conversation clearly. My consciousness became very light, and I felt my soul floating into the air. My parents' gentle, loving smiles were right before my eyes. I had just stretched out my arms to embrace them when a strong suction pulled me back. When I opened my eyes again, I was still in this body. Before me was the white ceiling of a hospital. "You're awake." A gentle female voice came from the side. I turned my head and met Ashley's concerned gaze. She was wearing a cheongsam, with silver-rimmed glasses perched on her nose. As the female lead of this book, she possessed a natural cool elegance without needing much adornment. But I had no mind for her now, only one thing on my mind. Why am I not dead yet? My tone was filled with unconcealed, deep disappointment. Ashley's hand, which was peeling an apple for me, paused. After a long while, she sighed, put down the things in her hand, came over to tuck me in, and looked down at me gently. "I've already explained this matter clearly to them. Chloe doesn't dare to see you because she's ashamed. They wronged you. Don't overthink it." With that, she reached out and patted my head. "You still have your sister for everything." I shrank under the covers, watching her actions, and couldn't help but let out a sarcastic laugh. I said, "Well then, sister, your boyfriend has been misleading others," implying I was the culprit. "Shouldn't he publicly apologize to me?" Ashley's expression froze. This time, she couldn't give me an answer. Ashley had always been the person in this world who defended me the most, at least on the surface. When I was little, my parents in this world hadn't yet died in a car accident. Back then, our two families were neighbors. Ashley's parents were busy with scientific research and rarely had time for her. My parents were kind-hearted and couldn't bear to see a child lonely, so they often brought her over to our house to play. Later, my home became her second home. She ate at my house almost every day, and if my parents bought me a gift, they would prepare one for her too. There was even a small bed reserved for Ashley in our guest room. She spent many nights at our house when she was too scared to sleep alone. In return, Ashley often took the initiative to tutor me. She inherited her parents' super high IQ and had been a top student since childhood. Under her guidance, my grades were also among the best in our year. Those times were so beautiful, but they ended prematurely with my parents' death. It was a most ordinary summer. On a stormy night with thunder and lightning, Ashley's parents suddenly called my parents, saying Ashley was missing. Her teacher said she left school normally after classes. Now, calls to her home aren't being answered. We're busy with research and can't get away. Could you please help us find our child? When my parents received the call from Ashley's father, I was leaning against the windowsill, watching the lightning outside, a strange sense of unease creeping into my heart. My mother also tried to persuade my father not to go, as it wasn't safe to go out in such extreme weather. But concern for Ashley ultimately outweighed the fear of danger. After all, she was a child they had watched grow up. It was on that rainy night that my parents' car accidentally plunged into a river due to the slippery road. They weren't discovered until the next day when the weather cleared. And Ashley, who had been missing all night, also returned at this time. She was wearing new clothes, looking at me with an awkward helplessness as I rushed out of the house in tears after receiving the call. Afterwards, I asked Ashley what she had been doing that night. She was silent for a long time. Finally, she told me that she had taken a lost little boy home that night. The little boy's home was in a well-known wealthy district in the city. Ashley walked with him for a long way and finally found the little boy's housekeeper. When she was about to return, it started to rain heavily, and the thunderstorm stopped her in her tracks. At this point, the little boy she had helped generously offered her shelter, inviting her to stay at his house. The next day, she was driven home by the little boy's driver, but everything had changed. At that time, after hearing this story, I once asked her with red eyes, since she had decided not to come home, why didn't she call home? She clearly knew my parents' phone numbers by heart. She clearly knew they would be worried, so why didn't she say anything? Ashley didn't know how to answer and could only keep her head down and apologize to me. After that, her parents hastily moved away with her, and I, because my relatives had seized my house, ended up in a low-income neighborhood. A long time later, after I awakened my identity and bonded with the system, I learned the truth. It turned out that the little boy she took home that day was the male lead, Ryan. The fateful meeting of the male and female leads had begun so early. While my parents were struggling to see the road ahead through the rain-streaked windshield on that stormy night, calling her name, she was being led by Ryan, who was proudly showing her his luxurious toy rooms. Young Ashley, overwhelmed by the novelty of these things, temporarily forgot many things. By the time she remembered, my parents had already drowned in the cold river water while searching for her. Our family should have exited the stage after that, far away from Ashley's world, leaving her alone to face her irresolvable guilt, eventually finding her way out of the shadows with the male lead's gentle companionship. But I awakened and reappeared in their world. At that time, I had worked hard to get into their high school to get close to the second female lead, Chloe, but unexpectedly ran into Ashley. After so many years, she still called herself my sister. The overwhelming guilt from her childhood made her openly dote on me, the cool-headed girl wanting to keep me by her side at all times to compensate. But she forgot that we were not related by blood, not real siblings. Her overly intimate behavior, driven by atonement, was interpreted differently by others. Ryan started to hate me around that time. After experiencing the ambiguous and naive period of youth, the male and female leads should have reached the point of confessing their feelings for each other, but my appearance caused them to drift apart. Ashley's excessive attention to me made Ryan unable to grasp her heart. he started targeting me, even though I explained, even explicitly stating that I didn't need Ashley's pretentious form of atonement. But things still didn't change. So when Ryan discovered I liked Chloe, as if deliberately competing with me, he also charmed Chloe. The more Ashley paid attention to me, the more he wanted Chloe to pay attention to him. Chloe liked Ryan, Ryan liked Ashley, Ashley chased after me wanting to compensate me, and I wanted to save Chloe. We formed a complete mess of a circle. Ryan grew impatient. He saw me as a thorn in his side, but didn't want to ruin his good image in Ashley's eyes. So he began to set me up time and time again, using all means necessary to isolate, ostracize, and expel me from their world. He was the male lead. He just needed to lift a finger, and the entire Johnson family would assist him. And I only had myself and a system that would only sigh and say, "Why has the male lead become like this?" In the end, I became notorious. He also gradually deviated from his original righteous and magnanimous persona. This time, Ryan framed me for hiring someone to kidnap him. Ashley, using some method I didn't know, made him change his story and admit it was done by the Johnson family's rivals. I wasn't sure how much of the inside story the person before me knew, so I rephrased my question. What if I said that between me and Ryan, only one of us can live? Ethan, don't say such foolish things anymore. She called my name with a bitter smile, looking at me almost pleadingly. Tell sister, what do you want? Sister will get it for you. Hearing this, I lay back down, a sarcastic look on my face. Then kill me. Ashley was silent for a few seconds, then said, "Not that. Anything else, but not that." I said, "Then make Ryan kowtow and apologize to me. Anyway, if you don't kill me, I'll definitely kill him." Ethan, hearing me repeatedly target her beloved, even the usually cool and composed Ashley got a little angry. She raised her voice. "Ryan made so many mistakes in the past because of me. You might as well hate me." The next second, she realized she had misspoken, suddenly looked up, her face instantly pale. But it was too late. "Ashley, so you really knew all along?" I looked at her with a cold smile, the last bit of hope in my heart finally dying. "Ethan, She looked flustered, wanting to say something, but the words twisted in her throat and ultimately, nothing came out. Of course, she couldn't say it. She couldn't say that in all those instances where I was wrongly accused, she knew the truth and was watching coldly from the sidelines. Back when Ryan falsely accused me of stealing his designer watch, I voluntarily opened my bag to prove my innocence, but he produced a fake surveillance video to frame me. Then, some random people came forward to falsely claim I had traded the watch with them. They even forged a transaction record and had already accessed my subsidy card information from the database, transferring money into it. I had no way to defend myself and carried the reputation of a thief throughout high school. And all these things, you knew about them all along, Ashley. I laughed, and tears gradually streamed down my face. This time, I was truly disappointed. If my parents' spirits knew they had sacrificed their lives for this kind of person, what would they think? Ashley, my next-door sister, her usually straight back gradually slumped under my words. When I was being bullied in school because of all the disgusting labels attached to me, I had looked at those angry faces and sworn to uncover the truth myself. But I was alone. How could I fight against the all-powerful Johnson family? They mobilized their entire family's resources to set traps for Ryan. Every time I tried to explain, a deeper trap would appear. I could only watch as the misunderstandings about me deepened. If only back then, you had been willing to stand up and explain for me. They didn't believe me, but they should have believed you. Your boyfriend is a person, am I not? Do I deserve to suffer all this? I looked at Ashley, speaking word by word. Her hands trembled continuously, wanting to reach out to me, to pat my head as usual, but I swatted her hand away. Ashley, who do you think you've done right by? I looked at her, laughing, yet tears streamed uncontrollably down my face. Stop talking. Please stop talking. She hunched over, her body trembling as she coughed violently, as if enduring intense pain. But I didn't listen to her and continued. You want to compensate me openly to soothe your guilt, yet you secretly protect Ryan. You want both sides but can't manage either. I must have had terrible luck to know someone like you. Suddenly, Ashley stood up abruptly and slapped herself hard across the face. Her glasses flew off, and 5 red finger marks appeared on her fair skin. Her lips trembled, unable to offer any defense. Finally, the usually proud woman lowered her head before me. She knelt on the cold hospital floor, her voice hoarse. Sister was wrong, Ethan. I wanted too much. I didn't take care of either you or Ryan. Tears dripped from her eyes, one after another. She looked up at me, her gaze shattered, almost desperate. What can I do? What can I do for you to forgive me? Please, Ethan, Uncle and Auntie are gone. I just hope you can live well. As she spoke, her twitching hand reached for me, trying to touch the hem of my clothes. This was a condition she had developed over the years due to psychological reasons. Whenever she touched upon those memories, she couldn't control her convulsions and trembling. But I just slowly backed away, looking down at her and said, Ashley, I'm not a fool. I won't believe your verbal compensations anymore. With that, I turned and left the hospital room, leaving her slumped on the floor, her body convulsing. She gasped for air, her pale face flushed an unnatural red. She was almost suffocating, yet she still tried to call out to me as I was about to leave. Ethan, she forced a bleak smile. Can't you really forgive your sister? Before I could react, a figure rushed in from outside the door and started pushing Ashley repeatedly. It was Sarah, who had overheard the entire conversation. She sat on Ashley, her tear-filled eyes red and swollen, her voice trembling with anger. How dare you ask Ethan to forgive you? Do you all have to push him to his death to be happy? Do you have any conscience? I gave Ethan to you, and this is how you treat him. I'm sorry. Ashley weakly uttered these 3 words and fainted. Sarah rolled off her, then started pulling at her own hair in frustration. You bunch of scumbags. I trusted you so much, but I wasn't good to him either. I'm a bad person too. The girl spoke, covering her eyes with one hand, her cries hoarse. Brother, I was wrong. I shouldn't have disbelieved you. All these years you must have been so wronged. I regret it. I didn't mean to treat you like that. Her commotion was so loud that it eventually attracted medical staff. Ashley was taken for emergency treatment, but Sarah stubbornly stayed in the room, looking at me, refusing to move an inch. Brother Ethan, please come with me. Chloe is treating you like this. If you stay with her, you'll die. I'm begging you. Her still youthful face was filled with pleading. But I ignored her. When the Johnson family's bodyguards came to pick me up, I left with them without looking back. Why? Weren't you always the one who doted on me the most? She asked loudly from behind me, her voice trembling. Why is it that after we reunited, you can only see Chloe? Weren't we supposed to be the closest people? I savored these words, a sarcastic smile appearing on my face. Back when you called me despicable and vicious, you didn't think we were once the closest people. Sarah, you're no better than Chloe. You're both disgusting. The girl's helpless figure was left behind me. This time, I didn't look back. I don't know how much Chloe found out about what happened in the hospital room, but from that day on, she no longer appeared before me. Perhaps she didn't know how to face me, or perhaps she still couldn't accept the truth that her first love had long since changed. Chloe avoided seeing me, so I had to find ways to seek death myself. After a series of failed attempts, jumping off buildings, biting my tongue, cutting my wrists, and trying to drown myself in the bathtub, the Johnson family had too many people watching me. The nanny, Mrs. Wu, tearfully called Chloe. Miss, I beg you, come back and see Mr. Ethan. He's about to break. Chloe ultimately didn't show up, but everything in this house that could kill me was removed, even the windows were sealed. When I had nothing to do, I would bang my head against the wall, and then curse Chloe's ancestors for 18 generations. Chloe wasn't angry. She began to intentionally or unintentionally hint to the servants in the villa that she hadn't gone to see Ryan these days. She also started sending me gifts. Car keys, watches, ties. Different gifts appeared on my bedside table every day. I persisted in throwing them away, and she persisted in sending them. Sometimes I woke up early and could see her hastily departing figure from my room. Chloe and I were in this standoff. The system reminded me to hurry up. I told it not to worry. Someone would eventually lose their patience. The first to lose patience was Sarah. She came to the Johnson house to find me many times, wanting to take me away, even alarming the Smith family elders. She threatened them with suicide, demanding they intervene and rescue me from Chloe. Chloe was now in charge of the Chen family business, and when she was stubborn, she wouldn't give face to anyone. The two families refused to back down, leading to a very ugly situation, and they even fell out completely. Finally, Sarah said harsh words to Chloe's face. If I hadn't been taken away back then, Ethan's place by his side wouldn't have been yours. You're just a thief who got lucky and didn't cherish it. These words finally angered Chloe. That night, I was half asleep when I suddenly felt a soft body press against me, accompanied by the strong smell of alcohol. I opened my eyes and saw Chloe's face, full of grievance. I had never seen her like this, like an abandoned puppy. She tightly gripped my hand and pressed it against her flushed cheek. "Honey," she said, "your love for me was stolen." Her voice carried a pitiful tone. She also said, "I don't cherish you. I do cherish you, I just don't know how to face it right now. Chloe, I'm not your husband. You left right after the engagement ceremony started, so I'm not even your fiancé." I interrupted her coldly. Chloe was stung by my words, her body freezing mid-air. The drunkenness in her eyes gradually dissipated, and she became clear-headed again. But then, she still chose to feign drunkenness, acting as if nothing had happened and continuing to snuggle against me. "No, my Ethan loves me the most. He will be my only husband." But hearing this, I just looked at her coldly. I said, "Chloe, you're not young anymore. Playing these games is pointless. If you had stuck to only fawning over Ryan like before, I might have respected you a little." Finally, Chloe was enraged by my words. She slammed her fist into the pillow next to me, her hand sinking into the soft goose down. After a long while, I looked up and met her bloodshot eyes. "Then what am I supposed to do? My parents only ever treated me as a tool since I was born. If it weren't for Ryan supporting me back then, I wouldn't have survived." "What do you want me to do?" she screamed painfully, her voice thick with despair. After a while, as if she had found her bearings, she softened her tone. "In the end, it's because you made too many mistakes in the past. It's okay, Ethan, I don't blame you anymore. She's crazy." I watched her struggle painfully with cold eyes. I said, "Yeah, he's so innocent, so good. Then why don't you marry him? Are you unwilling? Chloe, haven't you realized it yourself? You're acting so pathetically, it's cringeworthy. No wonder Ryan won't love you. You don't deserve anyone's love. I must have been blind in the past." "Shut up." I don't know which sentence provoked her, but she resorted to her old trick, pushing me down and gripping my neck tightly with both hands. "You were the one who said you'd always be good to me, that you'd always be by my side." She looked at me, her voice so desperate. "What's with that look in your eyes? Don't you love me the most? Why can't I feel your love anymore?" She roared, her voice filled with an unconscious panic and helplessness she herself didn't realize. Tears blurred her vision, but she still stared at me stubbornly, trying to find the love from before on my face. I was being choked by her, my face flushed red, but I just looked at her with a cold smile. "Yes, just like that, strangle me. Others can attend my funeral feast while you face the firing squad." Finally, she came to her senses just before I suffocated and abruptly withdrew her hands. "You were deliberately provoking me. You'd really rather die than stay by my side." At that moment, her usually broad and upright figure seemed to stoop a little, looking extremely pathetic. She bent over, coughing heavily, then turned her head and began to neurotically reassure herself. "No, you still love me, Ethan. You're just angry with me. I'll coax you back." With that, she leaned forward and hugged me tightly. "Let's get married, okay? We'll live well together from now on. Forget about everyone else, just us." Her voice was thick with sobs, tears soaking my shoulder. I pushed her away forcefully and slapped her across the face. "Chloe, kill me or torture me as you please, just don't disgust me with those words," I said coldly. Chloe turned her face away from the slap. Finally, she stood up silently. Picking up her jacket that had fallen nearby, she suddenly laughed self-mockingly as she reached the door. "Ethan, you blame me for favoring Ryan, but are you truly innocent? Ashley has now broken off with the Johnson family for you, and Sarah is also completely devoted to you. Dare you say you have absolutely nothing going on with them? You're right. Turns out they're so good to me. Then I should definitely give you up and choose them." I laughed loudly behind her. Chloe seemed to be scalded by my laughter and almost fled in panic. The next day, an unexpected person appeared. It was Ryan. According to him, Chloe had asked him to come and explain their relationship to me. He was wearing a custom-made suit, his smile peaceful. But as soon as he sat down, he sighed. "Chloe being like this also troubles me greatly, but she just loves to revolve around me. What do you think I should do?" I ignored him, my gaze fixed on the tie around his neck, lost in thought. But my dejected appearance pleased Ryan, and he laughed even more heartily. Actually, you don't have to be so down. Look, even though your reputation is so terrible, Ashley still pleaded with me to change my story for your sake this time. She really values you as her brother. As he spoke, he elegantly raised his glass to me. This time, he mentioned another person, Sarah. When she was first taken back to the Smith family, she used to tell us about her brother every day. She wanted to go back and find her brother, but the Smith family wouldn't allow it. So I told her, when she becomes mature enough, appearing before her brother then would make him happier. Later, she finally saw her brother again, but after that she refused to mention him anymore. The reason, ultimately, was that she discovered the brother who was once the best and kindest in her eyes had now become a despicable, money-grubbing loser. With every sentence Ryan spoke, his smile deepened. His eyes never left my face, eager to see an expression of collapse. But he ultimately failed to see what he wanted. In response to his words, I just smiled and replied, "Yes, Sarah is very good. It would be even better if she were willing to develop fake products and sell them to your family's company, just like Ashley did." Ryan's face instantly turned cold, the smile completely vanishing. Ruining the Johnson family, clearing my name, this was the practical compensation I had asked Ashley for last time. In recent years, the Johnson family had transitioned into cutting-edge technology, investing almost all their assets into this new research product. But on the day of the product launch, the research results Ashley presented were obsolete, defective products that had been eliminated for decades. The Johnson family trusted Ashley, their future matriarch, very much. Her actions had practically severed the Johnson family's main economic artery. Yet, even so, young Master Johnson couldn't bear to call the police and send his girlfriend to jail. Instead, he turned to me, fuming. I had no patience to listen to his nonsense anymore. I suddenly picked up the water glass on the table and threw it at him. In the moment Ryan was dazed, I walked over to him, grabbed his tie, and twisted it around his neck. "Young master, you've fallen into the hands of a loser now," I whispered in his ear. "Ethan, if you treat me like this, Chloe will never forgive you." At this point, he was still relatively calm. But when he gradually started to roll his eyes and struggle violently due to suffocation, he couldn't stay calm any longer. When Chloe arrived with her people, her gaze immediately fell on me. For a moment, when our eyes met, I saw a hint of joy on her face. Joy about what? Joy that I had finally confirmed my guilt, attacking her first love right in front of her? Or joy that she could go back to the past, standing on the moral high ground to condemn me, to point out my faults and mistakes? She said, "Ethan, everything before was just an act. You really are incorrigible. I wasn't wrong about you." As she said this, her face was terrifyingly grim. The next moment, I loosened my grip slightly. Young Master Johnson, finally able to breathe, negotiated with me, his voice trembling. "I can help you get out. I don't trust you. Really, you just want to prove your importance in Chloe's heart. I'll help you. We can make a bet," he said, and fearing I wouldn't agree, he forced an ingratiating smile at me. I frowned, listening to the plan he whispered in my ear. In the end, I smiled with relief. I nodded and let him go. Chloe rushed over immediately, pulled the trembling Ryan away, ready to send him to the hospital. Before leaving, he gave me a deep look. "I hope you can think about how to apologize during this time." Ryan really had a way with Chloe. After bringing Ryan back from the hospital, she removed all of Chloe's surveillance on me. Disregarding Mrs. Wu's pleas, she even had the bodyguards in the house drive me out. "Miss, I beg you, you'll definitely regret this in the end." "I never will," she said with a cold laugh, her face once again wearing that look of confident victory, as if she had already seen through me completely. I also played along, saying I didn't want to leave. The more I did this, the more it confirmed that my previous antics were merely to get her attention. Chloe's expression grew increasingly grim. "Ryan was right. I've been too indulgent with you. You really do need a lesson." At this point, I couldn't help but lower my head and ask her softly, "After all this time together, have you ever genuinely trusted me even once?" She frowned upon hearing this, seemingly recalling the past, all the things I had done for her, the genuine care and love, which ultimately couldn't compare to that fleeting glimpse under the umbrella on a rainy day in her youth. "Ethan, playing hard to get too often loses its effect." There was reluctance on her face, but she ultimately said no more, only leaving me with a reflect on yourself properly before closing the door. I turned around and saw Ryan standing in the darkness. When I opened my eyes again, Ryan and I were both tied up on a cliff. Not far away stood a frantic Chloe, Sarah, and a group of special police. "Let him go." I said, "Let go of Ethan, do you hear me?" I heard Sarah's hysterical shouts. She tried to rush over several times but was held back. The person holding us completely ignored her, merely turning their gaze to Chloe and shouting, "Miss Chen, you can only choose one. Who lives and who dies is up to your decision." Chloe's face instantly darkened upon hearing this. "I'll give you however much money you want. Let them go." "We don't want money. We just want you, the great President Chen, to lose your two most beloved men," the kidnapper said mockingly, which made Chloe's expression even darker. I saw her give a signal, and the sniper in the distance was already in position. But the next second, Ryan beside me suddenly let out a cry of pain. He was being held down by the kidnapper, his head pushed over the edge of the cliff. When Ryan came to his senses, his voice trembled slightly as he called out to her, "Chloe," he said, "Chloe, don't worry about me." The wound on his forehead from where I had hit him yesterday was still bandaged. Standing in the wind now, he looked like a fragile bamboo stalk about to break. Chloe's gaze lingered on the wound on his forehead for a moment, somewhat dazed. "Behave!" The man holding her from behind suddenly yanked her. Ryan stumbled a few steps, looking like he was about to fall. Everyone present instantly tensed up, and the murderous aura on Chloe's face was almost palpable. And Ryan, when he turned to look at me, gave a subtle smile. "You lost again," he said. "Aren't you afraid they'll find out this was all staged by you?" "Ha!" Hearing this, Ryan sneered. "With the Johnson family around, they won't find out. Haven't things been like this for so many years?" As he spoke, he raised an eyebrow at me, his smile growing more triumphant. But the person he had hired behind him pulled him even closer to the edge of the cliff. "Miss Chun, if you can't make up your mind, we'll have to make the decision for you." "Chloe!" Ryan was almost falling off, painfully calling Chloe's name. Chloe's hands clenched into fists, issuing a final warning to the kidnappers. "I won't let you get away with this. Cut the crap. Choose quickly." Seeing Ryan about to fall off the cliff, finally, Chloe's hand unclenched, and she looked at me with a pained expression. She asked me, "Ethan, this time, is this also your scheme? You don't want money, you just want me to choose. You're trying to prove who is more important in my heart, right?" She said this, then laughed self-mockingly. "I've indulged you too many times. This time, I can't let you make another mistake." Unsurprisingly, Chloe chose Ryan. In that instant, the scene fell silent. Sarah, who had been held back, rushed over and slapped Chloe, while Ryan gave me a victor's smile. "Goodbye." After saying that, he turned and left. The person who had been restraining me also let go. Seeing this, Chloe subtly sighed in relief. "Ethan, don't use such childish tricks to test me anymore." Then her words caught in her throat, because I took the initiative to step back, standing on the very edge of the cliff. Just half a step more and I would fall, drowning in the deep sea. "Ethan," Chloe called my name, her voice trembling. "Brother, don't try to kill yourself for this kind of person." Sarah, pinned to the ground, couldn't stop crying. She said, "Come back, brother. We'll live our lives together from now on. I was wrong back then. I shouldn't have avoided you out of jealousy. I shouldn't have given you up to this bitch." But I just gently shook my head, looking at them calmly. "Chloe, this is the 101st time." "What? The 101st time you chose Ryan. I genuinely loved you. If, during this time, you had chosen to believe me steadfastly even once, we wouldn't have reached this point today," I said, watching her gradually panicked expression, a subtle sense of pleasure welling up in my heart. Then my gaze turned to Ryan. I said, "You probably don't know, but I left a gift for you guys." I pointed to the second button on my shirt. "There's a pinhole camera installed here. All your words and actions just now were broadcast live. I wanted to go home, but I didn't want to leave with a bad reputation. The grievances I had suffered over the years were real, and I didn't want to be called a thief even after death. Clearly, at the very beginning, I had approached this world, and everyone in it, with a heart full of kindness." Ryan's expression flickered with panic for a moment. Then, as if he had thought of something, he calmed down. "That's right, the Johnson family, who could even forge surveillance records, could easily manipulate technology to shut down my live stream. In Ryan's imagination, my so-called live stream probably didn't even last a second. But he ultimately lost his composure under my smile and somewhat frantically snatched a phone from someone nearby. The internet was already flooded with discussions about him. Hashtag Johnson family air full of drama, hashtag rich kid bullying, hashtag such hashtags kept trending, and many people were using recordings of the live stream as evidence. In the video, his admission of framing me over the years and his provocative words were all crystal clear. Seeing Chloe beside him also take out her phone with a puzzled look, Ryan finally broke down and lunged forward, trying to slap her phone away. But it was too late. Chloe looked up sharply, her face pale, staring intently at me. Fake! It's all fake! Ryan screamed, pointing at me. But then, as if remembering something, he looked around and finally realized that the female lead of his sweet romance story wasn't present. His gaze fell on me, and I generously enlightened him. She helped me. She even provided the camera. So, you two can spend the rest of your lives resenting each other, torturing each other well. As I spoke, I leaned back. Under everyone's gaze, I fell off the cliff. No! Cries rose from behind me. I didn't know if they were from Chloe or Sarah, but I no longer cared. The moment I plunged into the deep sea, my soul floated into the air. I saw Chloe kneeling on the ground, her face covered in tears, vomiting blood as she stared in the direction I had fallen. Sarah broke free from those restraining her and also tried to rush towards the cliff, but at the last second, she was stopped by people from the Smith family. And in the distant city, Ashley was silently operating her computer, the screen filled with trending hashtags she kept pushing up. A crimson cut on her wrist was bleeding profusely, but she merely tilted her head, staring out the window. After a long while, she gently closed her eyes and murmured softly, "Ethan, you must hate your sister very much, right? It's okay. Sister has avenged you, and didn't even spare herself. When we meet again later, brother will definitely treat you well." After that, I saw my parents' kind faces and my friends' concerned eyes. Just as I was about to leave this world, I heard the system's electronic voice. Detected strong desire from target individuals for the host to live. Mission complete. Reward has been issued. When I woke up again, I saw my mother excitedly holding my hand. A miracle happened, Ethan. The doctor said your illness completely healed overnight. I couldn't hold back anymore and threw myself into my parents' arms, weeping with them. So good, I'm home. Epilogue. A long time later, I had returned to school from the hospital and restarted my campus life with the companionship of friends and teachers. One day, the system's electronic voice sounded in my head again. It turned out it was doing a follow-up visit. Under its guidance, I revisited the world in the book as a soul and witnessed the fates of those people from before. Chloe, after witnessing my fall, went mad with revenge against Ryan. She single-handedly investigated and exposed all the truths that had been hidden back then. Ryan was forced by her to publicly apologize to me on social media. But Chloe didn't let the Johnson family off. She relentlessly attacked the Johnson family in business with a self-destructive determination. The Johnson family's century-old foundation was bankrupted by her within 3 years. Ryan kneeling outside Chloe's villa in the rain failed to soften her heart. After that, she started drinking heavily day after day, completely neglecting company affairs. Later, she was abandoned by the Chun family and dismissed from her position as CEO. She returned alone to the place where we used to study, reliving our past over and over. One day, she started coughing up blood, but she didn't take it seriously, still drinking all day, calling my name in her drunken stupor. She was in the late stages of stomach cancer. When I went to see her, she had been unconscious in her small rented room for 3 days. In a daze, her soul saw me and just smiled foolishly, her voice soft as if afraid to scare me away. She said, "You look so different now. You look very happy. That's good." As she spoke, she reached out, wanting to caress my face, but I turned away, avoiding her. Chloe looked somewhat dejected, a bitter smile on her lips. She said she was dying soon and could come to my side to atone. But I smiled. "Only you are dying, Chloe. I've gained a new life in another world and will live in sunlight and love from now on. Only you will be like a pile of rotten mud, forever fallen and decaying. We will never cross paths again. Even if we die, we'll go to different hells." With that, I disappeared from her sight. Sarah, my non-biological sister. Then there were Ryan and Ashley. Ashley had been saved by her family in time after her suicide attempt by cutting her wrists. Afterwards, because she had tarnished the Johnson family's reputation, she was targeted by them. Before Chloe bankrupted the Johnson family, Ashley became the new bullying target for the Johnsons and their young master. The methods Ryan once used to torture me were now applied to Ashley 1,000-fold. Later, when the Johnson family went bankrupt, Ryan went to Ashley's house and asked if she was willing to give him a home again. Ashley opened the door and let him in, then one night, she lit the gas. No one saw the next day's sun. Sarah had always hated her past weakness. She had lived half her life being controlled by others. This time, she left the Smith family and went alone to a remote mountainous area to teach, and was never heard from again. When she saw me in her dream, she was very surprised. She said, "Brother, now I'm like you were before. I know how to help others. Seeing me now, do you feel gratified?" But I just shook my head expressionlessly. "Sarah, your affairs have nothing to do with me. From the moment you chose to run away, afraid to let others know that the boy who got into the prestigious school from the low-income neighborhood was the brother who raised you for 7 years, it no longer mattered. Our story ended a long time ago. After that, I have my own life to live." She cried, wanting to reach out and hold me back, but I had already turned away. Those dark pasts were finally left behind me. From now on, I would look forward.